The screen door slammed like a gunshot in the humid Kentucky twilight. And there she was, my wife of 15 years, suitcase in hand, her eyes already miles away. "Roman, I can't pretend anymore. This life. It's choking me," she spat, her voice cracking like dry timber under the weight of secrets I'd never seen coming. In that split second, as the gravel crunched under her heels and our old pickup truck's engine roared to life in the driveway, I felt the world tilt, the porch boards groaning under me like they knew I was about to shatter. I stood there frozen, the screen door swinging wild in the breeze off the Ohio River, watching her taillights bleed red into the dusk like accusations. Betrayal hit harder than any punch I'd taken in my mill-working days. Turns out, the late nights she called book club were rendezvous with some slick lawyer from Louisville, a man who promised her the city lights she'd always craved. And me? Just the steady hand she'd outgrown. The stepdad who'd raised her boy like my own while she chased shadows. Adrielle found me like that an hour later, slumped on the sagging couch in our shotgun house on Elm Street, a half-empty bottle of bourbon sweating on the coffee table. He was 22 now, all sharp angles and quiet fire, with his mom's dark curls that always looked like they'd been wrestled by the wind. He'd come home from his shift at the campus coffee shop in Lexington, backpack slung over one shoulder, smelling faintly of espresso and rain. "Dad." His voice was soft, tentative, like he was testing the air for mines. I looked up and God, the way his brown eyes, those eyes that mirrored hers but held none of her flight, locked on mine, pulling me back from the edge. He dropped his bag and crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling in front of me like he was still that scrawny kid I'd taught to throw a curveball. "What happened?" "Mom's car. It's gone." I tried to speak, but the words lodged in my throat, thick as the humidity clinging to everything in this godforsaken summer. Instead, I handed him the crumpled note she'd left on the kitchen counter. "I'm sorry, Roman. I need to find myself. Tell Adrielle I love him. Sell the house if you have to. Don't wait." Adrielle read it once, twice, his jaw tightening until I thought it might crack. Then he folded it neat as a prayer and set it aside. "She's gone for good this time," he said. Not a question, just a fact he'd been bracing for longer than I knew. His hand found my knee, steady, warm. A gesture so simple it undid me. I broke then, sobs ripping out like I'd been holding them since the day we said, "I do," under that magnolia tree in her parents' backyard. That night we didn't sleep. Adrielle dragged me to the kitchen, brewed coffee strong enough to strip paint, and we sat at the scarred oak table where we'd shared 1,000 Thanksgivings. He talked. Not about her, not really, but about the little things. How she'd always burned the turkey, how she'd blast Patsy Cline on vinyl while folding laundry, pretending the world was still soft. I listened, nodding, but mostly I watched him. This young man who'd bloomed under our leaky roof despite everything. Adrielle had come out to us at 16, raw and terrified, during a family dinner that turned into a battlefield. She'd hugged him fierce, whispered prayers over his head like he was a miracle. I'd frozen, beer bottle halfway to my lips, my mill buddy's slurs echoing in my skull. But Adrielle? He'd looked me dead in the eye and said, "This is me, Roman. Love it or leave it." I chose love, clumsy as it was. Taught him to fix the truck's carburetor. Cheered louder than anyone at his high school graduation. Now, with her gone, he was the anchor. The days blurred into a gray haze. The mill laid me off the following week. Downsizing, they called it, but it felt like the universe piling on. Bills stacked like cordwood. Mortgage on this creaky house she'd picked for its charm. Student loans for Adrielle's art degree. The endless drip of utilities in a town where jobs evaporated faster than morning fog. I pawned my wedding ring first, then the toolbox Dad left me, the one etched with his initials from his Navy days. Pride kept me from telling Adrielle, but he saw it anyway. The way I'd skip lunches, the hollows under my eyes deeper than the Ohio's bends. One evening, as cicadas screamed their symphony outside, Adrielle burst through the door, cheeks flushed, holding a canvas bag stuffed with flyers. "Pack your sketch pad, old man. We're going out." I laughed, bitter. My art was doodles on napkins, stick figures of trout I'd never catch again. But he wouldn't budge, eyes sparkling with that stubborn light that reminded me why I'd fought for him. He drove us out to the riverbank, where the water slapped lazy against rusted barges, the Louisville skyline a distant smudge of promise and pain. We spread a blanket under the willows, cracked open PBRs from a cooler he'd smuggled, and he made me draw. The herons stabbing at minnows, the freight trains rumbling like distant thunder. "You're good at this, you know," he said, sketching beside me, his pencil flying over charcoal waves. "Better than you think." His shoulder brushed mine, casual, but it lingered, a spark in the cooling air. I swallowed hard, remembering the whispers at the mill, the sideways glances when folks learned about him. Gay kid in a straight-laced town like ours? It was a target on his back. And me, the stepdad who'd sworn to shield him, now wondering if I was the one needing protection. That's when the conflict cracked open, raw as a fresh wound. A week later, at the VFW Hall's Friday fish fry, our ritual even without her, Old Man Hargrove cornered me by the catfish platter, breath sour with Bud Light. "Heard 'bout your boy, Roman. And now her leavin'? Birds of a feather. Maybe you tool shack up, save on rent." Laughter rippled from his cronies, greasy forks pausing mid-air. Rage boiled up, hot as the fry oil, but I swallowed it, fists clenched under the table. Betrayal wasn't just her leaving. It was this town, this life we'd built on eggshells, turning on us like we'd asked for it. I drove home silent, knuckles white on the wheel, Adriel shotgun, staring out at the passing cornfields. "They don't know shit," he muttered finally, voice low. "About us. About anything." The word hung there, heavy, pulling at threads I'd ignored for years. Back home, under the harsh kitchen fluorescence, it spilled out. "Adriel, I don't know how to do this without her. Without you hating me for not seeing it sooner." He stepped closer, too close, his hand on my arm like a lifeline. "Hate you? Roman, you're the only one who's ever stayed." His eyes searched mine, and in that gaze, I saw it, the mirror of my own ache, the quiet longing we'd both buried under duty and denial. The climax hit like a squall line over the plains, that stormy night in late August when the sky split open. I'd been dodging calls from the bank, the house teetering on foreclosure, when Adriel came clean. He'd been selling sketches online, scraping together cash to cover the mortgage. "I couldn't let you lose this place," he said, voice breaking as rain lashed the windows. "It's all we have left of her, of us." But it wasn't just that. He'd taken a second job bartending at a dive in Lexington, the kind where eyes lingered too long, hands brushed with intent. "Some guy's been pushing, Dad. Says he'll help with the bills if I..." You know, the word hung unspoken, but it gutted me. Betrayal twisted deeper. Not from her ghost, but from the world trying to claim him, piece by piece. I exploded, pacing the living room like a caged coonhound. "No. Hell no. You're not some pawn in their game." Thunder boomed, shaking the foundations, and he shouted back, tears mixing with rain on his face from the open door. "And what about you? Pawning your life away like it's nothing? We're drowning, Roman, because you won't let me in." The fight peaked there, words flying like shrapnel. My failures as a husband, his resentment at hiding who he was for my sake, the unspoken pull between us that terrified us both. He grabbed my shirt, yanking me close, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to his breath on my skin, the storm raging outside mirroring the one inside. Then it broke, not with anger but surrender. He collapsed against me, sobs racking his frame, and I held him, there on the porch as the downpour soaked us through. "I love you, kid," I whispered, the words tumbling out raw, truer than any vow I'd made at that altar. "Not just as family. Everything." He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes, water streaming down his cheeks like absolution. "I know, and that's why I'm not running. Not from this. Not from you." We didn't cross lines that night. No dramatic confessions under lightning. No fevered kisses in the rain. That wasn't our story. It was messier, more human. Instead, we dried off with threadbare towels, brewed tea in chipped mugs, and mapped a way forward by lamplight. Adriel's art took off after that. A series of riverbank pieces that caught the eye of a gallery in Cincinnati. Raw strokes of blue and gray that screamed our pain and our fight. I enrolled in night classes at the community college, welding turning to graphic design, my doodles evolving under his patient critiques. The house didn't sell. We refinanced, clawed our way out of the red, one late shift at a time. Her betrayal faded to a scar, a reminder that love isn't ownership. Adrielle's, ours, was different. Forged in the fire of loss, tempered by storms we weathered side by side. He brought home a boyfriend eventually, a quiet musician named Theo with a laugh like summer fireflies, and I watched them on the porch swing, sketching sunsets, feeling the ache ease into something like peace. Me? I found my own quiet dates. A barista from the college with kind eyes and no expectations. But late nights, when the river whispered secrets to the willows, Adrielle and I would sit with our sketchpads, shoulders touching, sharing silences that said more than words. Strength isn't muscle or bravado. It's showing up when the world's screaming run. Care isn't grand gestures. It's the steady hand in the dark. She left us shattered, but we rebuilt. Not as stepfather and stepson, but as two men who'd learned to hold each other up. In the heart of America, where rivers carve canyons and storms pass but roots endure, we found our way. And damn if that isn't the real miracle.